um, second session of season 2 of the Ward 3 Neighborhood series. The topic being neighborhood traffic calming with presentation by folks from the Department of Transportation and Mobility. My name is Matt Kopek. I've seen many of you in previous sessions, but a few of you are new, so please welcome in. And to get us started, I just wanted to say a few quick Zoom housekeeping tips. There's a lot of us on this meeting. It looks like it's a popular topic, which is exciting. So please keep yourself muted unless you are speaking. And because there are so many people, I prefer to call on folks when they have questions. So go ahead and mute yourself and use the raise hand feature to ask a question. So to get us started, I am going to turn it over to the Ward 3 Council member, Karen Ulick, to give us some welcoming remarks.
Thanks, Matt. And wow, what a great turnout. I'm scrolling through your video. It's so good to see so many of you. My gosh, it's really, really great to see you all again and to know that you're continuing as you have for years and years and years to make sure your corner of our great community is the best it can be. And this is such an important topic for safety, for quality of life. And so your investment of time and leadership is really appreciated. And so we have great presenters in Blake and Gabriella, and I want to thank the Ward 3 staff for this presentation as well as the others that they've organized. What a great team serving you in the Ward 3 office. And there's going to be a library. I know there are other issues and things happening this evening, including the zoning examiner hearing on an important project of concern to many people. And so, Matt, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a library with links to all of these sessions for people to refer to in the future. So what a great resource. So with that, thank you again, and I'll turn it over to the presenters. I'm sorry I can't stay, but I'll be tapping that library. You can bet on it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Karen. So to get us started, because there's quite a few people and it's a little too many to do this verbally, just go ahead in the chat feature, go ahead and put your name and the neighborhood you're from. If you happen to not know the neighborhood you're in, just major cross streets, just so we can get an idea about everybody joining us today. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Gabriella. She is the livability manager for the Department of Transportation and Mobility. And backing her up is going to be Blake Olafson. And I'll turn it over to each of them to introduce themselves. And then Gabby will go ahead and, Gabriella will go ahead and take the lead on the project or on the presentation. Gabby, it seems we're not here, at least I'm not hearing you.
Okay, I think she's just checking her connection, and I'm sure this is not the first time you all have experienced this during COVID times where we have some tech challenges. It's kind of par for the course, but we appreciate your patience and tolerance as we figure it out.
Right. And in the interim, Blake, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Blake Olafson. I'm with the City of Tucson Traffic Engineering. My focus on traffic safety. I'm more of, the nuts and bolts of traffic. So traffic calming is Jesse Soda and Gabriella, and I really support them on making those things happen and make sure that they, what the end result is safe for everyone that travels. I always like to give my plug for TDOT concerns at TucsonAZ.gov. If there's anything you see in your neighborhood, out in streetlight, of course, potholes, anything, just send it in that way. It's the most efficient way to get it in our system. It gets tracked, and it gets distributed to the right person. So that's really the most efficient way to get things done in the city. I know we all love our ward offices. I love mine. Ben Briss is my ward, so I'm partial to him. But you know, these guys got a lot on their plate, and just getting in that system really is a really efficient way to go. So I encourage you to use that. And I might put a link in the chat. I have these slow down yard signs that I have, and they're free, and we deliver them to your home. So I have them in front of my home, and I've been told by many people they're quite effective. Now, some people might not agree, but that's what I've been told. And they're free. And so I'll put the link in the chat, and if you can just forward those to your neighbors. We have hundreds of them to give away. So I think they're kind of, I don't know if they're pretty or aesthetically pleasing, but I like them. So that's my pitch. Thank you.
Okay, and I see that Gabriella is back with us. Looks like you just muted yourself. We can't seem to hear you, Gabriella. You might need to call in via phone.
Well, I think we might have tried our hit our wall with our luck, because all of our previous sessions have gone pretty well without too many technical difficulties. But I suppose it is just the nature of the times we live in.
It can be a little challenging. So I'll go ahead and kind of take up a little bit of time here. And Matt, if you want to check in with Gabriella and just see if she's able to connect via phone. So some of you were able to join us a couple of weeks ago for our last information session. And that one, we had invited partners from Tucson Clean and Beautiful to go over our Green Stormwater Infrastructure Mini Grants program. And I mentioned that here just because some of the traffic calming elements that Gabriella is going to review are sometimes things that neighborhoods will actually implement through some of the green infrastructure grants that the city makes available. So curb cuts, some of the chicanes, traffic circles, that sort of thing. One of the really awesome things that Gabriella has in her presentation tonight is also helping you to kind of think beyond just those approaches. And so I think that will be really rich. But I know that Matt will be able to kind of share a link to the presentation that that we held last time that kind of walks folks through how to actually participate in those green stormwater infrastructure mini grants. And that may be a tool that some of you want to take back to your neighborhoods and really think about how you might take advantage of those efforts as part of a traffic calming approach. And Gabriella, how are we doing?
Hi, I moved to a different room, so I think we're good. Sorry.
You sound great.
Excellent.
Sorry about that. I'm going to keep my video off just because of that connection. My apologies. Okay. trying to
No,
suggest.
no worries at all. And if you need to, Matt can actually bring the PowerPoint up and share the screen if you want to just help tell him, you know, how to advance the slides. So, but we were just doing introductions.
Okay. Matt, I'm trying to share my screen and it says the host disabled. Participant.
Oops, sorry. I think because you left and came back. I will fix it right now. All right, give it a whirl.
Okay, can everybody see that presentation?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is a big group. I'm really excited to be joining you all today. I'm going to keep the presentation pretty relatively brief, and then we'll have time for the discussion afterwards. So my name is Gabriela Burrias Longoria. I'm a livability planner at the Department of Transportation and Mobility. And I have prepared this presentation. No one else has seen it yet, so it's hot off the press, but we're going to go into an overview of the neighborhood traffic calming program, which has really evolved a lot in this last year. So the purpose of the program is, I'm going to mute somebody, is to promote safe and comfortable travel in neighborhoods for people regardless of age, ability, and race. Also thinking about how to program help to achieve efficient and safe movement, not only of traffic, but of people within neighborhoods and emergency vehicles, of course, and with the intent of the neighborhood street functioning at its best. Another purpose of the program is to provide levels of accessibility for traffic, discouraging excessive speeds and encouraging opportunities for transportation, which is an alternative modes, and all in recognition of life. And then the last purpose is to maintain acceptable levels of service on our city arterials to avoid intrusion or diversion onto neighborhood collectors and local streets. So first, to start off with some traffic calming 101. So we have some base knowledge and terms, shared terms. So why traffic calming? One of the main concerns that we hear and that the ward office I'm sure hears too is speed and cut through traffic. Another is alerting people that are driving of possible presence of people that are biking and walking. Narrowing the width of the street. Some of our residential streets are very, very wide, which just encourages people to drive faster. And safety for everyone who uses the street and beautification. So these are common treatments that you've seen around me, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with. So as a recap, chicanes, this is the first image. This is a landscaped chicane, obviously, permanent. All of these are permanent designs. And then there's a curb extension, median islands, speed humps, speed tables, and traffic circles. So now we're thinking about the spectrum of these treatments, and as we've evolved and learning from other communities, we have more to offer you. So it doesn't have to be the $10,000 traffic circle with landscaping and like that end, but we can do something more permanent and test out some different, do something more temporary, test out some different treatments. So here's a breakdown of the project delivery. And again, the terms because sometimes people use them interchangeably. So when we talk about a demonstration project, the duration it could be anywhere from a day to a month. And then pilot is a month to a year. Interim design, I have it in italics because it's not sometimes up to permanent. It's a year to 5 years, and then the permanent is 5 or more years. And then you see the dollar signs here that correspond. So they get inexpensive to more expensive. So now we're going to dive into each one of those. The demonstration projects are sometimes referred to as pop-ups. It's intended to be a temporary experience. So if permanence is either not desired or not possible, maybe it's because of funding or you as a neighborhood, you're like not sure how it's going to be received. So you want to test something out and build support and engage the community. These are temporary activities that allow people to use the streets in a different way for a short, specific duration of time, so 1 day to 1 month. The materials are movable objects like traffic cones, traffic control barricades, planters, DIY informational signage, nothing that is bolted into the street. And as I said, the duration could be anywhere from, that should say one day to 1 month. And then here are some images of illustrations from street plans that shows some of these different objects. So we have these movable flex posts, tires that could be repurposed as planters, spray chalk, and traffic barricades, control barricades. Here's just some more examples of what these very temporary treatments can look like. So here's a traffic circle, and you see it's just freestanding delineators or flex posts, parking stops, and movable traffic signs. Here's another example of a temporary traffic circle that has, again, freestanding delineators, traffic cones, chalk. So there's some artistic elements here. Planters, and this is called a straw wattle. And then here's an example of a temporary chicane. So using similar materials. This one has an additional informational sign explaining what it is. And here is a curb extension that's pretty creative with tires that are used as planters, artificial plants, and cones as well. And then here's just a closer look at what an informational sign can look like. And this can be like really DIY or something a little bit more substantial like this. They're intended to communicate about project information and the purpose of this potentially unfamiliar infrastructure to users or casual passerby. So that's something that we want to be doing more of as staff as we get more experienced doing this kind of thing. And a pilot, so back to this, this slide tells you what the process is. So you don't use, for anything that is more than a day, you need to collect petitions and follow the traffic mitigation management process. So we'll get into that later. The interim design, this is an example of something that is semi-permanent, 1 to 5 years. And this image here on the left is an actual rendering of what is now in the Garden District neighborhood in Ward 6. It's a flush median island that was part of the Slow Streets improvement. So it's just paint and flex posts. And then this one on the right is a rendering, so this hasn't been done yet, of Feldman's neighborhood. And this is just a concept that some of the residents shared with us that they want to move forward with. So it's a really good, perfect test for us because we're having them walk through this process for as a first. So they're going to have to follow the neighborhood traffic mitigation management process to get approval for these flex posts and paints. And they're actually funding that one from their own funds. And permanent, this, again, if permanence is a possibility, funding political will. These are some examples of some permanent traffic calming infrastructure. And again, you as residents follow the neighborhood traffic mitigation management process, which is collecting petitions. And just a note, it doesn't have to mean pouring concrete. Like the example on the left is just flex post, paint, and these Dagmars here. So, or you have, the more costly, fully fleshed out landscaped traffic circle. And I believe this one is in Rico Bend. Performance metrics. So when we talk about like, how do we measure success as staff? And I like to think about what does success look like to the community too. So I really want to continue having these conversations, but here's a start. An increased perception of personal safety is improved, greater sense of community, number of neighbors that are engaged, an increase in the number of people walking, biking, rolling, playing, a decrease in cut through traffic, decrease in speeding and vehicle volumes. Strategies for using our streets differently. So now I'm going to get into their current initiatives. So starting with the yard sign pilot program that Blake touched on, the traffic calming lending library, slow streets, and then the speed hump program that is housed in each ward office, as well as the block parties. So starting with the most temporary, easy, free initiative is the yard sign pilot program that Blake already talked about. So materials, yard signs, it's free, very easy process. You just go to the website, you can Google Tucson yard sign pilot program and it'll take you here. And you just have to take the safety pledge and then complete the form online. If you don't have access to a computer or don't feel comfortable doing that, you can also call 520-791-3154. That's the TDOT concerns line. And we'll be sharing these slides with you all, so you don't need to worry about that. Then moving to the traffic calming lending library. This is coming soon in fall 2021, so you're the first to hear about it. The materials are movable items like cones, flex post, spray chalk, straw wattles. We did a test with the materials as part of a Tucson Delivers Bike Boulevard project. This was in 2019 on Roger Road with Wheat Design and Living Streets Alliance. So this was just a pop-up for the afternoon to engage residents about the Bicycle Boulevard project and get them to experience what a linear park looks and feels like. So this was funded by a Tohono O'odham Nation grant a couple years ago. So we've been really intentional about what the rollout is going to look like. We want to make the process really easy for you as residents. So it's finally going to be happening this fall. And the duration is going to be, it could be a half day or a day maximum. And the purpose is an opportunity for you all to test out temporary materials for a pop-up demonstration. Then Slow Streets, popular program, I'm sure some of you have heard about it. So we just wrapped up phase 2 and earlier this year. So we had the opportunity to really scale the program up thanks to support from mayor and council and additional funding we had from that decision from the COVID relief dollars. So Slow Streets is a program that is being implemented across the country and even cities around the world. And it started as a response to COVID-19. And of course, some cities have this problem more than others, but there was a lot of overcrowding at the beginning of the pandemic on trails and shared use walking paths. So, and then also people were telling us that there was increased speeding on their streets and that they didn't feel safe, like using their neighborhood streets to walk and bike and stay active. So this was an opportunity to expand like the front porch so people could be active while staying home and also just avoiding having to drive to a park or a trail that was inaccessible. So this is a free program. Now moving forward, because we have that funding expired, we're going to do it 100% in-house, which also means we have to scale it down a little bit. So we are going to do 4 per year, and the duration of this program for each location is 1 to 2 months. So the materials are just barricades and signage, as you see in that image, and cones as well. The goals are to reduce the speed and volume of vehicles on the slow street corridor, to provide more space for physically distanced essential travel and exercise. Reimagining our residential streets as an extension of the front porch and as a space for people to play, walk, bike, and roll safely. Promoting safe and comfortable travel in neighborhoods for people of all ages, race, and abilities. And then, as I said earlier, responding to community concerns that discourage people from using their neighborhood, like speeding and cut-through traffic. So just a little bit more about what the future of slow streets is going to look like now that we are thankfully getting a better handle on the pandemic. So this is going to become a permanent program because it was so successful. So thanks to, again, support from Mayor and Council and my director, Diana Clun, we're going to make it a permanent program. So what does that look like? This a path to permanence. So we really want to commit to what do we do after that 30 or 60-day installation is over. We know that neighbors are going to want, okay, like how do we make this permanent? So we are going to use some of that funding for those more permanent improvements. As I said, do it on a quarterly basis or 4 per year. And it's going to be 100% in-house. And we really want to leverage partnerships and volunteers with block leaders. Here's an image of the block leaders in Barrio Centro with Diana and the project team. We do a walk and talk as part of the evaluation of the program, where we hear from neighbors directly on what they think of it, how the installation is going, and kind of their ideas for more permanent solutions. Now going back to anything that is beyond like a one-day pop-up for demonstration, there's an application process. And if you want to install, have any of these more permanent features in your neighborhood, so you can fill out the form, the speed hump request form, and the website is down at the bottom. If you're on the phone, if you just Google Tucson speed humps, it'll take you to that page and you fill out the form. Or you can email t.concerns@tucsonaz.gov. Then you are going to receive a petition form with lighted neighborhood map that DM prepares. And then it's on the residents to fill out, to collect the signatures, and you need 60% approval from the neighbors on the abutting street in order to move forward, because we don't want to install anything that doesn't have from the community. This is a process that goes back to the early 90s and was actually developed and adopted by Mayor and Council. So it has a long history and has worked well. The petition is then scanned and emailed to Josette Kina, or you can take it directly to the Public Works Building on 201 North Stone Avenue. Then DTM will review the approved applicants, and if your street is approved for the construction, you as the liaison will be notified. And related to that is the speed hump program. And it's the same process, just the funding is different. So Mayor and Council approved creating a speed hump program that would reduce the cost for neighbors to get speed hump installations on residential streets. So it's an incredible opportunity. Normally, residents would pay $4,000 to $5,000 per speed hump, and if with this, it's only $500 per speed hump. Of course, it is limited. So, and the decision or the selection of who gets selected for the speed humps is 100% up to the ward office. So that's not a decision that DTM makes, but each ward office is allotted 5 speed humps per year. So, and the good thing about this, even if you aren't selected, is the petitions, that process that I went over, is good for 4 years. So it's still good to get some of that legwork in, and maybe you could be considered for the next year. For those that are selected, and you will then make a check payable to the Department of Transportation to a One North Stone. But prior to that, we do require an email from the council office just to make sure everybody's on the same page that you are selected for that. So that's just a funding mechanism for the speed humps. But if you want, some neighborhoods have been really successful in fundraising to get these improvements. Sometimes it takes a while, but I've heard stories of neighbors that have fundraised for 3 years for these improvements, and others a little quicker. So there's options. Then related to this, as part of the traffic mitigation program, is the neighborhood identification signs. So you've probably seen these all over the city. They're posted in the neighborhood boundaries. They're $75 to $100 a piece, and there's a whole process for that too. But that is an option for you. And then lastly, there's the monument signs. So these are the larger signs that you see at the entrances of some neighborhoods. They're of course more costly, ranging from $3,000 to $12,000. They're freestanding structures at the entrance of the neighborhood or a business, and they're actually installed in the ground. So that's it. Thank you all. Now we're going to open up for discussion. Here's my contact information. For those on the phone, it's gabriela.Betty, B as in boy, ARILLAS @tucsonaz.gov.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. There's a lot of great information in there, and we really do appreciate it. All right, if people want to go ahead and use the raise hand feature, or you could also physically raise your hand and I can see it. I can go ahead and call on you if anybody has any questions. And then just to preemptively answer a few questions I think we'll probably get. This session is being recorded, and I'll send it out to everybody that registered for it, as well as the slide deck that Gabriela just went through. So that will be information you can refer back to. And also another point, I think Sarah made it at the outset, was also that I would also encourage you, if you're interested in some of these projects, if you weren't at our last session with Tucson Clean and Beautiful about some of the green stormwater infrastructure that can also have an impact on traffic calming, please check that out as well. All right, so Gabriela, if you wanted to go ahead and stop sharing your screen just so I can see everyone and see if their hands are raised. So it looks like Dr. Ron Spark, if you want to ask the first question. Ron, you are muted.
Can we drop residential speed limits to 20 miles an hour, and or does it have to be a bikeway in order to get the exception to the state law as far as residential speed limits?
That's a great question. I'm really happy that Blake Olafson's on to answer that one.
Yeah, sadly the answer is it has to be a bike boulevard before we can lower to 20 miles an hour. And you should know that all speed limits are set by ordinance by the council. They're not set by DTM. We can make recommendations on speed limits, but ultimately it's up to the council. But to answer your question, at this time, we can't deviate from state law. The bike boulevard is kind of a, I don't want to say a loophole, but sort of is getting around that. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Blake. The next person I saw who had their hand raised was Nicole Snook.
Hi, I had a question for Gabriella. I was going to be applying for the stormwater infrastructure mini grant from Tucson Clean and Beautiful. And it wasn't going to be for an area that is directly on a city street. It's going to be for an area that is denuded land that does that traffic does go through. And I was wondering if I should include the transportation department, you specifically, as possibly a person to contact for that grant, as far as getting large boulders to block traffic into the pocket park, or some other traffic calming devices out there, or should I just leave it up to Tucson Clean and Beautiful?
That's a good question. I have not walked through the mini grant application myself from Tucson Clean and Beautiful, so I would have to get back to you. But I would say you could. I would probably be the person to contact, so you can keep me informed. I can also reach out to the project manager for that program at Tucson Clean and Beautiful. And
Thank you.
an answer.
Can I add something to that real quick, Matt, if you don't mind? Gabriella did a great presentation, but I just wanted everyone to know that, you know, all of these initiatives for traffic calming aren't, you know, we're not saying go to the website and fill out a form, and, you know, we're people, we're here to help you walk through the process. So Nicole, I know I've met Nicole before, and so, you know, I would you know, I'm in traffic, so I'm a little bit off to the side from this, but I hope I'm not putting Gabrielle on the spot here, but, you know, emailing out to her, Jesse, is really, you know, you can do that too. And you can go through TDOT concerns, and they'll filter it down to them. But, you know, we're your public servants, so we're here to help you, you know, make things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could be of help, and like as a, you know, consultation when you're putting together your grant proposal, that's something we're happy to do.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much. The next person who I saw had their hand raised was Joan Daniels. And then the person after that will be Gerald Grutstein. Hope I pronounced that right. But
Close enough.
sounds good. You will correct me when it's your turn, but go ahead, Joan.
Okay, I do have a question for Gabrielle. Jefferson Park has put in 4 monument signs in the traffic circles, similar to what she had last shown on her last signs. And the latest we hear from real estate is when we go to sign the covenant, they tell us that the association has to have liability insurance. Our liability, when we looked up to get liability insurance, they don't want to insure neighborhoods because this was Philadelphia insurance, because our membership is voluntary. So what have you heard about anybody having problems doing things in their neighborhoods because they don't have association liability insurance? That's the question.
That's a really good question. All I know about the process that you're describing is that this involvement with the real estate team, that it does have to be, so you're in the evaluation stage where the real estate team evaluated, and you're,
all we were doing, everything has been approved by TDOT, everything's been approved by everything. All we had to do was sign the covenant, which we have signed many times in the past for other monument signs and things like that. Now, all of a sudden, they want to go to risk management and see if they can okay it.
okay. Yeah, this is news to me, so thank you. I will look into this and
Please.
Jesse Soto has been really involved with the signs. He's out of town, but when he gets back on Monday, I'll talk to him and we'll get you a response. And yeah, we want to make that happen for you.
All right, thank you. Gerald, do you want to go next?
Thank you. Look, my community has formal circles. They have speed bumps. They have pop outs, and none of this is really working. All they want to do is keep adding more and more speed bumps. And the shock absorbers in my car are not going to handle it. I want to know how I stop the locations of these things.
So there is a process. So as I said, in order to even install those speed humps,
They've gone through the process already. The petition has been distributed. There's 60% of the people in the petition area that approve it, and it's right in front of my house, and I don't want it.
I hear you. There is a process to reverse it. So you could then appeal it, and you would have to get the same amount of signatures to.
Well, that's not going to happen because the survey group is only 8 houses.
I see. What neighborhood are you in? Just
Richland Heights East.
Okay.
And I would add that they had 3 different proposals grouped into one petition, and they decided that they would not do it that way so that they could get them approved, and broke it into 3 proposals, which had a much more limited survey group. All I know is that I'm going to sit in the street to prevent this construction. How do I do this? They didn't entertain any of the other solution ideas, like the chicanes.
Okay.
I suggested bollards. They didn't want that. I don't think they know how to deal with this. This is what the Department of Transportation is supposed to be doing.
I hear you. I think, Matt, do you have any ideas? I just know that as city staff, we can't be mediators between neighbors, and this is like it's a dispute. I would encourage you to propose what ideas you have as well, and alternatives to speed humps, and see if you can get support for that.
Yeah, I think Gabriella, I think you make a great point there. You know, like with just generally, it's the idea of the process is that there's enough consensus of people in the area to move forward. So I don't, you know, I would encourage you to work with your neighbors, since all of these.
Look, that's a lot of garbage to me. I've already explained to you the details. There are 8 houses. They've got enough people to force it through. I'm not going to let this thing be built. And if it means being arrested under civil disobedience, I'll do that. You have to have a way to deal with this.
All right, well, you've made your point. There's a lot of other people here on the call to ask questions, so I think we'll leave it there. The next person who had their hand up was Hillary Martin.
Hi, thank you. So I live in Campus Farms off of Mountain between Prince and Roger. We have a number of the planter medians in the middle already at a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit there. But regularly we have cars zooming by at 50 miles an hour. We even, as recently as a couple weeks ago, had a car careen and crash down the middle planter medians and take out 2 mesquite trees. We see people passing illegally across double yellow lines. And so the community in this neighborhood is really trying to figure out what can we do to slow traffic down, since we already have the middle planter areas, and it is a bike route up to the bike path on Mountain. And I loved your presentation, by the way. I thought those temporary chicanes were like gorgeous and fantastic. And I kind of wish we could do something like that. I'm not sure where we would put them because we already have permanent ones, but they're not slowing folks down. It's almost like they need to be bigger, but then we're nervous that cars will careen around them and go into the bike lane and take out bikers. So we're in kind of a weird situation. I did notice we only have one 25-mile-an-hour speed sign in this whole kind of length of roadway along Mountain from Prince going up to like Roger or beyond. And so my question is twofold. One, how difficult is it to get more 25-mile-an-hour speed signs posted? And then two, are there suggestions for other things that we can do since we don't have speed bumps, but that might be something to look at. But we wanted to just kind of talk to you guys about what other suggestions you might have since we already do have like these permanent planter medians.
I'll jump in first, and Blake, you can talk about the speed management. But I'm sorry to hear that about especially the mesquite trees going down and the planters. My first thought is that we could explore other treatments too, but we also know that, as you're saying, that sometimes you can just design the heck out of the street and put everything in, but it's sometimes not efficient just alone. So we need to combine it with encouragement activities, sometimes enforcement, engineering, and these other E's. So, but we can test out some of those more temporary treatments as well. The speed humps or speed tables tend to be pretty effective in reducing speed and volume and deterring people from using that route. I know that Mountain is a very heavily used bicycle corridor and kind of prioritized for that. Open to meet with you, follow up on just one-on-one and kind of discuss some of these other options. But curious to see what Blake says.
Yeah, I love this dialogue, but in some cases you guys are putting us on the spot on site-specific things. So, I encourage you to reach out to us, one-on-one, and we can meet you out there. I love to get out of the house nowadays, trust me, and think what's possible. On speed limit signs, we try to limit them to changes in speed limit. So if you're coming off at 35 to 25, we have on every street a speed limit sign, and we get lots and lots of requests for speed limit signs. We really don't think that adding more speed limit signs is going to be more effective. For one speed limit signs, I can give you 50 of these yard signs, and you can go put them up, on your neighbor, get them to your neighbors. And I think that would be more effective. I believe that would be more effective seeing something repeated than black and white sign on the side of the road. And I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm a traffic engineer in the city, and I couldn't tell you what the speed limit is on Speedway or Grant or you just drive with the flow. And so I'm not really big fan of sign clutter either, putting up a bunch of signs just in the hope that they work. So I hope you will get my gist there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sounds good. It sounds like a good follow-up opportunity there. All right, I see Lisa Jones, are you attempting to raise your hand?
I am, thank you. So if a neighborhood is considering different areas for speed bumps within the neighborhood, is there, just in terms of documentation, I don't really know that the city has ways to determine quantity of traffic and maybe even speed of traffic. And could we have those things available to us as a neighborhood to help us make decisions about what area to even apply for a speed bump?
So I'll jump in on this one. So I failed to mention, we do have we have portable speed feedback trailers. I don't know if you've ever seen those signs that as you drive by, it says your speed, and it has a radar and actually tells you what your speed is. And then it has the speed limit below it to make sure, well, so you know, it's 45. Oops, I was going 48. So you hit the brake, hopefully. And so we have about a dozen of those trailers, and we rotate them around the city. So we don't have a really good, actually the best way to be through TDOT concerns is request those speed trailers on your street, and we'll put you on the list. Now they're really popular, they really do work. So it's kind of a wait, 3 to 4 months, unfortunately. But what I tell people is get on the list, and as soon as you get them out there, get on the list again, because then you'll be in the queue again. And they do collect speed and volume data, and we have. I'm glad you brought this question up, because we have put them out and seen the data and saying, yeah, we don't really have a problem here. Let's not spend our time and effort, investing in $4,000 for a speed hump at this location when the problem is at this location. So, let's use some data to make some decisions. So maybe Gabriella, before she sends the slideshow out, maybe I can give you a slide to throw in there about the speed trailers so people can be aware of that program.
Thank you.
Great. All right, the next person is Trish H.
Hi, thank you. I live in Campus Farms, just north of Prince, between Prince and Allen. And as Hillary had said, we already have concrete medians. It is a MSR, a major street and route collector, intended for traffic movement. As Hillary said, we get pretty much, I'm okay with the 10 miles per hour over 25 miles an hour and even up to 40, but it's the 50 and 60 mile an hour traffic that we get constantly. I've had people pass me or pass in the other lane in my bike lane coming the other way. It's not safe sometimes to ride my bike up to the Rillito. I have talked with you, Blake. I started a dialogue in December and early January. I am in the queue we are in the queue for the speed feedback signs. I did just in this meeting actually followed up to see, because it's been about 3 months. So I would welcome a walkthrough to see what we can do to control the speed. I know, and I don't know if there's a temporary that we could do that one day to 1 month to see if even a speed hump or a speed table would help. Since we already have medians, I don't know that medians are going to help or roundabouts, but is there something that we can do as a portable to see if even speed tables or speed humps would help? I don't know.
Great. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say,
yeah. Sorry, that's a tough one, Trish. Yeah, so I'll check. I think I saw your message. I'll get back to you on the speed trailers. So we're really reluctant to put speed humps on major streets and routes because of emergency services. We can do speed tables. So that's definitely a possibility. When I say major streets and routes, so we're talking, 1 lane in each direction. We can't put a speed table on Speedway Boulevard or, like that, but certainly 1 lane in each direction. So again, that would have to go through the petition process, and, we're here to assist on that. But I don't know if Gabriella mentioned that all the speed humps and any kind of traffic mitigation device has to be reviewed by traffic, of course, and then emergency services, and then solid waste, because they have their job to do, and we can't interfere with that. So
right, but before we even do that and do the petition, is there something that we can do as a temporary portable to see if, I don't know if there's options for that, to see if even a speed table would solve anything, right?
Yeah, we don't. I've seen temporary speed humps and tables. They're extremely expensive to procure, and we don't really have that right now. So
And one thing we haven't talked about at all is traffic control, like police traffic control. I've been in contact with our lead police officer. We all know that Tucson Police is is woefully understaffed. So if you had a policeman sitting there monitoring and giving tickets, it would solve the problem too.
That's a good point. That's the enforcement piece you bring up. And, sometimes it's a last resort, but sometimes if the community wants that, it could help. So I believe, I don't think there's anybody from TPD on this, but I believe you can request to have them come out, and the motorcycle team that monitors the speed.
I'm in the queue on that too.
Oh no. And yeah, regarding the speed humps that Blake was said they're expensive, we looked at just to see how much they were, and they're like $10,000 for one of those movable ones. So yeah, we don't have those right now. But yeah, we can meet one-on-one, like Blake said, go out on site and see what other options we can explore.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So we are starting to run up against time. I see Allison and Cindy have their hands up, and they haven't had a chance to ask a question yet. So hopefully, if you might be able to ask a quick question, we could get it in before we have to end.
I'll try to be quick. Can you talk just a little bit about the restrictions on the number of traffic calming installations you can have in a particular block radius? So we already have a circle, but we're still getting a ton of cut through traffic and pretty high speeds for a residential street. So before, we explored something like a speed hump or speed table or something like that. Are there restrictions on having yet another calming installation within a certain number of blocks of a traffic circle?
Short answer is no. So the best spacing is about 300 feet. If you have a typical block, I would love to see a circle at every intersection. I'm from Seattle, where that's what we have. But so yeah, the ideal is a circle, and a speed hump in the middle. But again, it's got to go through emergency services because, it becomes an obstacle for them.
Thank you.
Great. And then Cindy?
Yeah, I had just a quick question about these speed track trailers. You said the queue is really long. How long is the queue right now? And how long do you get to keep them?
I have to check, but it's at least 3 months. They go in, we usually deploy them in pairs. It's easier to manage them, to keep them in twos. And so we have 8 sets, but we do allocate some to like Broadway construction. We're seeing a lot of people using the neighborhood side streets. So we've kind of saved some for that. And then we have some Houghton roads under construction, and we have a lot of high-speed traffic out there. So we're trying to manage that, but you don't probably care about all that. But basically, yeah, it's about 3 months, and it's pretty laborious to move them around and collect and do the data. So,
so 3 months wait, and then how long do you
want?
A
minimum of 2 weeks.
Minimum of 2 weeks.
Minimum of 2 weeks, and usually longer because unfortunately, our ability to keep moving them is limited because of staff.
Yeah, because they're having. And then one other question, and it's kind of whimsical and probably silly, but couldn't you put a sign out there that says speed hump ahead and not really have one? I mean, it might work for a week or two at least, or people might think that one's coming and slow down, because by the time they get to a speed hump, it's too late. They're flying at that point.
Yeah, I love that idea, but there's lawyers that are just like waiting for me to do things like that. Yeah, believe it or not.
Get out.
Someone
And
will
so
crash and say,
close
"There's no
down.
speed hump here."
You know that somebody's, anyway, okay.
That's really funny. Thank you all. So we do have a hard stop because we're hosting another neighborhood meeting on our Zoom account. So apologies for that. But I wanted to say thank you to Gabriella and Blake for giving us this information. I think we had some really good conversations, and it's going to be definitely ongoing for sure. And especially considering so many people are interested in this, we can definitely tell how important it is. So thank you both so much. If there's any last closing thoughts, mine is that thank you all for joining us through this Ward 3 Neighborhood Series journey. It's been 11 total sessions since we started back in October. So thanks for anybody who's joined us for one or maybe even more than one. So thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.